Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coach Dave Delta World Sprint Championship. Now, to address the arrow-sized hole in the room, unfortunately, he's not able to join us tonight. Neither is Craig. Now, talking to them, they are both feeling under the weather. So, to the both of you, I wish you nothing but the best. Cozy up, get some blankets, get some hot rum, or whatever remedy you see fit. Hopefully, you're feeling better soon. And hopefully you'll be able to enjoy the great round of racing that we are about to have. It's the penultimate round of the championship, and this is where things are going to be spicing up. It is Circuit of the Americas tonight. We are headed to COTA, and as you'll see in a minute, once we come out of practice in about a minute's time, we have got some sneaky surprises in line for you. First, of course, let's go over the podiums from the previous round from Portimao. Unfortunately, was not broadcasted, but Patouche comes out on top with Mitchell Diaz and Mathieu Bouquet coming in second and third. So healthy points boost, and that is going to put them in very good standing. Patouche now in second in the championship and really pushing ahead of Schlichting into third, with Bouquet pushing himself up into fifth. Going to the other side of the aisle, it's going to be the LMGT3s, and coming out of Portimao, it's going to be Robert Poor with another win on the trot, and going to be healthily inserting himself into the lead of the championship. 21 points ahead of Timmy Letonen, who isn't appearing on this leaderboard. Ramsey and Moffat are going to be second and third, with Moffat securing his P3 and Ramsey getting a bit of a boost up into P5. So pretty exciting stuff that we've got coming out here. And that is going to lead us to our overall standing. So as you heard a little bit of snippets of, we have Bellucci currently in first place in the championship in the Lamborghini, and really pushing for some peak pace out here tonight. We say Bellucci is going to be in first, with Patouche in second and Schlichting in third. Butson and Bouquet are going to be fourth and fifth in the Ferrari and the Toyota respectively, with Mitchell Diaz, Marcel Stenius, Henrik de Vries, Daniel Wilson and Betik coming out to the championship, but had the points to place in 10th, placed joint 10th with Ferdinand Kerner. Then going over to the LMGT3 side, we have Poor, Letonen and Moffat in first, second and third respectively, with Ian Nisbet, Alasdair Ramsey, Jordan Forte, Franklin Stijink, Reda Uhilal, Jordan Biddle and Gary Barham making up your top 10. Now tonight we have joining us 9 hypercars and 9 LMGT3s, so we are going to have ourselves a pretty spicy qualifying session, the session of which we are about to jump trackside to. So we go into the standings and into the race itself. We have 15 minutes on the clock. Key things from practice. We might as well get a little bit of context before we head into the session itself. Practice results. Patouche currently sits on top of the hypercars with a 205.623. Then looking over to the other side of the aisle, it's going to be Alasdair Ramsey who leads in the 4 for the LMGT3s. Say the number 777 is going to be the car to beat here. But enough of that now, as we are going to go trackside. And as you may notice, it is going to be looking overcast. Now, the official weather data we have here is that it's 27 degrees outside, light cloud cover, and a 10% chance of rain. And you just missed it out in practice. We have had rain in the practice session. So that is going to be a bit of a bearing on the grip levels, on the natural surface temperatures, and we're not going to see those tyres grip and stick immediately as one might hope. But big sweeps out. Everyone's going to be jumping out of those pit lanes as fast as one physically can. We're on board with Grossi right now. We've also got Richard Cook sweeping their way through the first sector. Key things to note with this circuit: it is going to be a bit of a roller coaster. Your first sector is your big test of grip, but then you can really open the taps coming out of turn 11 as Cook is doing so. Open up the taps, get your braking down into turn 12. That's where a lot of overtaking is going to be set to happen. Then it's a bit of a twisty turny as you go through turns 13 to 19 with the triple apex, sorry. Turns 16 to 18 there, all on a right-handed corner. And then the turns 19 and 20 to finish. Set in a massive, massive plot of land. 1,500 acres. It is a jewel in the calendar. Certainly for me anyway. I've always had a soft spot for this track, particularly that uphill turn 1. I think it's just such a unique feature. But we do have our first car out on the course. It is going to be Hendrik de Vries. So let's see exactly what he's capable of here as we get through and into the quali laps of this session. Nicely done through turns 1 and 2. Make the use of the banking and now into that squiggly first sector. Of course, be careful of the curbs. Balance your car's grip out. You're not going to have a sticky of a tyre as you're maybe hoping for. A little bit of a slide. Little bit of a tyre hook on the inside curb as well, but negotiated it fairly well and still keeping a decent grip on that track. See, we're going to go in to turn 11. Now you dip right down, but let's stick with it a little bit longer here as we go into the cockpit of the Cadillac V Series R. 260, 270, 280 kilometers into 7th gear, almost touching the graces of 300 kilometers an hour before we go onto the brakes deep into 1st gear, and now making their way through the next section of the course. Final sector now looking good for De Vries. Sweeping his way through turn 15 now, sets himself up nicely for the triple right-hander. Got to balance yourself around the edge of the apexes there. Watch for the inner curb as it goes out and in. Of course, got to balance the perfect line through. That's 19, very nice. Now into turn 20. A little bit of a decline. You can get a bit more on those brakes. And up to the finish, it is going to be a 55.379. But not to be outdone, Alessandro Grossi in the Ferrari has just gone through with a 52.996. Immense stuff here. Checking in with a couple of GT3s. Izzy and Niesbet going to be sweeping their way down and through. Let's switch that to multi-class mode as we are going to get more representative times here. Let's get some of those times on the board. So you got Pur Lettonen with a 207.6, a 208 flat, 14.2 coming from Bergerson. Ramsey comes in with a 209 flat and 40 with a 9.2. More times coming through on the hypercar side as well. Mika Patush, 54.1, 55.3 from De Vries, now holding him in 3rd, as Dan Wilson is less than a 1/10 of a second away. Here comes Niesbet to the line into P5 with an 11.148. 7 out of 9 GT3s have placed. Sieging and Barham only left to go, and 4 of the hypercars have yet to put something in the books. Let's jump on with Bouquet, strongest Sector 1 right now, and looking on good form for Sector 2, but can he carry it home? See those rear brakes absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree as he heads now into turn 16. Good sweep. Again, watch those angles on the inside. Any hopping up on the curb and you will compromise your entrance. A little bit of sparking as that splitter gets very close. That ride height really being dialed in to the maximum here. But nicely done. Good rotation from Bouquet and up to the line now. What's it going to be? I don't think it was valid, unfortunately. I think he just swept a little bit too wide in the sector off of screen. So this is going to be the actual lap from him. And I think we're going to stick on board for now. Ferguson with a 14.2, Biddle with a 13.4, and Barham with a 12.7 in the LMGT3 category. Alexander Borgso with a 59.476, and Kerner 59.944. Ostenius 57.5, and then you can see the top 5 for each class on your screens. We're coming up to halfway through quali, and an important thing to note, per stewarding decisions, Bellucci is serving a race ban tonight, so he will not be joining us. He will rejoin in the finale of the season. This could be a chance for other drivers on the field to snatch up some of that gap for this championship and really start to put down some pressure on his opponents, from his opponents. Meanwhile, Butzin is going to be serving a qualifying ban, so that is why we will not see him leave the pits, meaning that there is only one car, that being Bouquet, left in the hypercar group to set a time. Butzin does start at the very back of the field, inclusive of the LMGT3s. So he's going to have to fight through traffic at the start of the race, and that could get very dicey in the early stages. Well, Bouquet, second verse, same as the first. A little bit down on time compared to their previous run. Not quite getting up the deltas that they were hoping for, but still keeping a clean run. And at this point, they need something in the books. Doesn't matter how good it is, doesn't need to set the world on fire, just needs to be a legal lap. And across the line, it is P3, Bouquet with a 53.7. Very impressed by that count. Let's check in with a couple of other GT3 cars meanwhile. Porter is in the pits along with Ramsey and Forte. Nisbet on an outlap, but here goes Lettonen. This is going to be Lettonen, I believe, coming through into turn 11 and into turn 12 is going to be approaching soon. You can see the rain has started to fall, so already the doomsday clock for this quali session has ticked over into its next phase. The likelihood of rain was predicted, certainly for the race, but we weren't expecting it to hit as aggressively as it did in quali. We're already seeing a bit of a downpour, and already a conundrum has come out for the drivers. You can see Biddle 1.3 seconds away. Not going to get any chance at a good lap now. 22:11.912. Could still make up some time, but it's not going to be quite where he wants it. You can see immediate downturn in pace through that corner. And I know we've been on board with the hypercars, but still stands to reason that a lot of that grip is due to the water coming down. See, very wide out of turn 20. That is unfortunately going to be an illegal lap and actually slower anyway. So this might be a bit of an anticlimactic end to the quali session. We still have some drivers committed regardless. Here's Ian Nisbet. And even on the other side of the fence is Kerner. I think that is just him coming into the pits now. A couple of other cars on their outlaps. Here's Borgso. We did see in practice as well a couple of cars staying out even in the wet weather just to get some practice in. I think that's just as important. Get practice to the wet weather. It's easier to transition from wet to dry running than it is from dry to wet. Dry to wet, you have to dial yourself back, and that's a lot harder in that direction than if you were running wet, being conservative with your car, and then told that you can let the reins go. A little bit of a light flash. Smile for the camera, Borgso. We're heading to turn 11. Watching and observing now. So Borgso is going to be making their run down into turn 12. So that Alpine does actually sound really nice. Grossi and Patouche will be still out there and still committed to laps. Now, say Borgso and Kerner are on the outlaps at this point. And then we have Nisbet as well, who is currently on a push run. But most of the field has retired to the pit lane. There's no value in them coming out again. So Borgso trying their absolute dangdest to get some heat into those compounds, to get that control over the temperature. Temperature. But coming up to the line now, it's go time. It's make it or break it. Patouche into the pits, and Grossi is going to be abandoning their attempt as well. So Borgso is the only hypercar out there, and Nisbet is the only LMGT3. 3 seconds down compared to best. There's not going to be much chance here. We're only into turn 11. So the chance is going to be slim or an improvement. I'll admit, I have not seen Kota in fully wet conditions. And wow, we are seeing Nisbet struggle. You can see the approach into turn 12 there. Really, a bit of a brutal wake-up call to any drivers thinking that they can just power through the wet weather. I think Nisbet has got a bit of a message for you as he's wrangling that Ford Mustang. Not so much driving it as he is trying to rein it in. You can even see how much he's having to let off through this triple apex. And how quickly the car wants to kick the back end out. Oh, good save there, Nisbet. Very good save, I'll admit. It got me nervous. There you go, back into the pit lane. Kerner, only hypercar remains out on track. They are still committed to going on a lap here. If nothing else, then I think to see if they can. Bit of a quiet qualifying. Not in the way I was expecting it to play out. But still gives us a chance to see how drivers react to the wet weather. Now that Peugeot has not been kind to Kerner. And it doesn't seem to be giving them any slack now. Bit wide into 11. And now sweeping their way down the back straight. Smile for the camera. We should make that more of a segment. I think we should. Smile for the camera crew. It was a bit of a flash, bit of a wave in the quali. You can see, you saw it right there, folks. Just a little bit of quick rotation on the wheel. Tries to get it turning, and the car just doesn't want to rotate. It was almost scrubbing those front tyres, trying to get them to generate some friction. That's why we saw the awkward shift to the left as they headed into turn 12. Not going to be an easy road for their entire field. 10 hypercars and 9 GT3s later, we are going to see quali end with a fizzle rather than a bang. Kerner's still committed to the lap regardless, just to see what wet pace is like, and it looks like it's going to be in the 210s, at least with the Peugeot 9X8 here that we've got on the course. 211.095, and a stylish finish? That's certainly a way to do a bit of drawing on the tarmac. But a stylish finish coming in from Kerner before they will inevitably return to the pit lane. Here's Stijink. Again, going a bit too hot into turn 12, taking a bit of a practice for the wet weather, inevitably looking to make an appearance during the race session. The clock has fully elapsed, and this is where things are now going to wrap up. So taking that full board into consideration, Grossi, Patush, Bouquet, De Vries, Wilson, Cook, Holstenius, Alexander Borgso, and Ferdinand Kerner are going to be your qualifiers in that order, with Butzin doing, quote, last to first challenge today, as seen in the live chat. Currently in 10th, serving a quali ban, which means they will start behind the 9 LMGT3s of Poor, Lettonen, Ramsey, Forte, Nisbet, Biddle, Borgerson, Barham, and, as we're on board with now, Stijink. And quali has officially come to an end, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take a review of the entire set of drivers. Let's see what they've got under the hood. So 52.644 was the best time to come out of the field here. And frustratingly, Grossi and Patush running the same driver numbers. I'm going to call out the numbers by instinct, but apologies in advance if I do mix those two up. Grossi and Patush running first and second, and within a couple of tenths of each other. In fact, almost precisely 4/10 of a second.
Teams and drivers go to the grid for a race start.
Apologies, folks. Don't know what happened there, but let's set the starting order and let's go trackside. So see what these racers have in store for us. Let's take a full view as we head to row 1 first. Grossi and Patouche both in the Ferrari 499Ps. In number 51 will be first row. The second row for third and fourth is going to be Bouquet and De Vries in the number 7 Toyota and number 2 Cadillac. With number 3 Cadillac in 5th place of Dan Wilson and the number 99 Porsche of Richard Cook. Row 4 is going to go to Holstenius and Alexander Borgso in the number 4 Porsche and 35 Alpine respectively, with row 5 and the end of our hypercars being Mark Ferdinand Kerner in the 93 Peugeot, Robert Poor leads in the 86 Ferrari. Row 6 is going to go to Lettonen and Ramsey, second and third, in the 55 and 777 Ferrari and Aston, with the 46 BMW and 44 Ford of Jordan Forte and Ian Nisbet. Jordan Biddle and Sebastian Borgerson in the 88 Mustang and 155 Ferrari. That's going to be row 8, with row 9 of the 92 Porsche of Barham and the 46 BMW of Stijink. Finally, rounding off our order, P19. Now on track is Marvin Butson in the number 50 Ferrari, and that is where our classification for qualifying ends, and where the session is set to begin any minute
Formation
now.
lap has started.
There you go. Formation lap has started, and the cars roar to life. You know the drill by now, folks. You've been here enough rounds. If you haven't been here and you enjoy what you see, of course, the YouTube channel is right here. We don't just have WSC. We have other events. We have stewarding videos, giving you a peek behind the curtain. So if you like what we do, consider liking or subscribing. Up to you, as well as joining our community through Discord. But time to go racing, folks.
Green flag.
The track is hot. It may be sopping wet, but that's not going to stop him. Let's go. Round 9 of the World Sprint Championship, and immediately Grossi is on the advantage. Going to go for the push. Patouche and Bouquet squeezing for the same space. Wilson going very deep to the inside. Has to coil it back in. Wind the neck in. Wind the Cadillac back. As there's going to be a big wobble on the curbs. That's going to be Patouche resigning himself to third place. Bouquet getting an early advantage. An early press on position. Lettonen and Poor, meanwhile, fighting for position a little bit further down. Lettonen has got that advantage. And oh, that's going to be one of the Ferraris. That's going to be Holstenius and Porsche as well. No, it's Butson, sorry. Holstenius is right here. Butson was the one who went off track earlier, and they are going to be currently fighting side by side with another hypercar. And oh no, speared into the side. Just a little bit too close for comfort. Too much punch for Judy, and they're both now at the back of the field, and in such an early position too. Last time you want to be in that spot. Patouche has got himself back ahead of Bouquet, and Wilson is currently doing a drag race with his fellow American patriot in Henrik De Vries in the number 2 Cadillac. Roaring V8, dragging down to turn 12 here. Who is going to take the victory spot here? Looks like Wilson has the better line. And both of them are going to be pressing each other's side here as De Vries takes a bit of a slide. Unfortunate into turn 13. Has to go back into P5. Not able to quite hold that proximity. Meanwhile, in the LMGT3s, trying to get a bit more of a window. Poor on the back of Lettonen, refusing to yield an inch. So apologies, we don't have the picture-in-picture today, folks. For a little bit of a window into how that works. That is literally Eero in-game on the spectator cam, running his completely own rig. So that's how we get that working. But here we go anyway. It is going to be a quick, sharp battle, as many of the drivers on the field trying to assert some early positions and get themselves into a pocket of the racetrack where they can start to settle down. The hypercar side of the aisle, Patouche now half a second away from Grossi, having taken a bit of a swing and a miss earlier, now recovering their position, but still under severe pressure. As you can see, a mistake there heading through, and turn 6 and 7. That is going to be crucial for Bouquet to reassert an attack and potentially squeeze them into turn 12. Yeah, Butson now making his way back through the GT3 field. Not going to be staying down there. Holstenius is in the box, so he's going to be going for a pit stop, potentially having to deal with a car issue as a result of the earlier altercation. See a couple of fights further down to Borgson. Stujink further up ahead. All going to be playing for keeps now. Patush has dropped themselves down by an entire second to Grossi here. But Bouquet could be a challenger lying in the wings. We'll keep an eye on those two on the timings as we go. Biddle, meanwhile, on the back of Nisbet. Mustang v Mustang. Crazy thing is that we're only a couple of laps in and we're already seeing major fights populating the field. All is quiet on the hypercar front, but GT3s continue to deliver. It's poor. Quarter of a second away. We have Biddle and Nisbet also as a potential battle bubbling. Already the hypercars have spaced themselves out quite significantly. I think their aero packages are playing a factor in that, because the dirty air generated by those surfaces is going to be significant. Certainly a tad more than these GT3s. We see them running very close into turn 1. Really running close here. He's on the back. This is going to be a fight potentially for championship. Remember, Lettonen is their main rival here. There's 21 points between them, but a well-timed race finish here in the good graces of the points could completely swing that outcome. Could bring them into a dangerous striking distance heading into round 10. But tied to the back of the other Ferrari, the number 55, having to play defensive. You can see having to tuck a little bit to the inside here. Both of them going neck and neck into turn 12 now. There's Lettonen fully committing to the defensive line. Goes to the inside, little bit of fender contact, and goes to the rear quarter panel. That's going to be the 86. Now challenging for any space they can get their hands on. They're still going to stick the nose in and try to lay claim to the apex, but a better exit from Lettonen is going to confirm that defense. Goes deep into turn 15 there, so fight is far from over yet. And Ramsey is now going to get involved. You can see that Aston tailing on the two Ferraris. Both of them battling has given him an opportunity to claw away at that space. Good result here from him could get him into P4, potentially P3. All of the hypercars have spaced themselves out by 1.5 seconds or more. Bouquet and Cook are the closest to another car, but everyone else is completely in their own pockets. Holstenius now out of the pits. He's going to be having to fight his way up to make for lost time. He went into the box now recovered, but not without a serious time deficit. This is going to be a hefty challenge to overcome, especially now that Ramsey is going to be getting themselves involved. What is this camera? This is one of the onboard cameras, apparently. The game did not take a liking to me trying to take a couple of these side angles. You can just see there is Ramsey like a vulture, waiting to see what Lettonen and Pour do. As soon as one of them makes a mistake, that Aston is right there to capitalize, and is not going to say any apologies, as they potentially will swing themselves into P2 or even P1. We'll see. Worth noting that, as rightfully pointed out, the last round, same as the first round, is a double pointer. So the setup for the final round is paramount. A good result here Combined with the double points, you could slingshot championship places and potentially sweep it out from under the feet of your rivals. So this could be all the more important for the likes of Ramsey, for the likes of Letonen, to get into that striking distance. Even for Moffat, who is a little bit further away, unfortunately won't be joining us tonight, but could still rise back up to that podium in the last round. Going to jump up to the hypercars meanwhile, as we see Hendrik de Vries having recovered a significant amount of time compared to Dan Wilson. He's now going to have a potential fighting chance and a challenge on his hands. It's Cadillac v Cadillac once more. 3.5 tenths of a second are going to split the two. You can see Wilson is taking no chances. Already dives to the defensive down the back straight. What will de Vries do? Tucks in. Turn 12 fairly clean. Little wobble from the yellow. Remember, you've got Wilson in the yellow number 3 and de Vries in the blue number 2 right now. And if there's one thing I could summarize this fight with, it would be pressure. Pressure is everything. Don't get the turn done right away. Don't get the overtake done right away, because they'll just get you back. The secret, like many tracks, is to slowly coax your opponent into making a mistake, one that they cannot easily recover from. And we'll see how de Vries manages the pressure, as he has lost a bit of time, but I don't doubt that he'll be able to make that up very, very soon. Biddle still on the back of Nisbet. This is a good example of that pressure. Now, Biddle is still behind, so you may think that it's not exactly working. But given time, given enough patience, will be rewarded. Because as soon as Nisbet knows a mistake is on the horizon, he knows that Biddle is going to be right there. Reese appears to be losing a bit more time. He's now outside of a second. Hopefully they'll get a chance of recovery. Again, running very close. He's going to be Poor once again, jumping on board with. Poor is in a bit of a rock and a hard place situation. He currently stands between two very fast drivers. Letonen on the front, Ramsey on the 6. Now, Ramsey is biding his time, like we were saying before. But Letonen, I think he knows that eventually Poor is going to go for a move. So the question on my mind is if he's going to stay and let that move happen, or if he's going to go aggressively on the defense, just to keep him at bay, potentially squeeze Ramsey into the fight even more. Using your opponents to achieve your goals is a very strategic element of the race course. One that is very hard to master. You can play your opponents like pieces in a chess game. Hit them against each other, or you can run away. That's the ideal scenario. I think Letonen might be trying to set himself up for that as Poor and Ramsey get closer and closer. There will also be a wild card on the horizon in the form of the number 4 hypercar. Olstenius back from the brink and now making his way through GT3 traffic. It's going to be him past Borgeson now, but this could be a bit of a question mark arising from the course, and the rest of the GT3s are going to now feel the hypercars sweeping by them as we are coming up to our soon first lappings from the hypercar division. Fortunately, we do see Barham retiring out into the pit lane. So he's going to be our retiree of the session. Not quite sure exactly what happened. Any insight is more than welcomed, but Barham is going to be retiring out, and that is going to bring us down to 8 GT3s. Borgerson is now going to be feeling a bit of weight on their flanks, as there is going to be Grossi and soon Patouche sweeping their way into those positions ahead and starting to get some lappings done. An average lap around here for the hypercars is about 155, with a GT3 taking about 15 seconds more of that. We're going to see averages of a 210, especially once we get into race trim and full race spec running. We are going to see plenty of lappings over the course of this session, but 10 minutes in, coming up to 15, and things are looking good for some. Grossi's got 1.1 seconds on Patouche, and Bouquet is going to be in a firm third place with no major challenge from the likes of Wilson. He's very busy fighting with another certain Cadillac in the back line. Meanwhile, we do have as well Biddle and Niesbet going for a bit of a charade potentially, as there was Holstenius briefly proving to give the two pause. Was going to be tight, but looks like the gap is still very much preserved as the laps are now ticking through. Reese and Wilson continue to challenge one another, and we are keeping an eye on that subtly in the back line. But right now, eyes are firmly trained on the fight for the podium in GT3, because look at this. There's Letton and Paul Ramsey all running together. Paul very close to staging an attack on the number 55. Getting closer and closer. This is going to be breakpoint potentially. Patience is going to start running thin. They've run very close together for multiple laps now. Is still within a couple of tenths of a second. Is starting to make mistakes. You can see the suboptimal line there. Oh no, here's going to be one of the hypercars. That's, I think, going to be Patouche right there. Or Grossi. No, both of them getting involved. This could get ugly. Barely keeping it together. Minimal casualties, but geez, that was very close. We almost saw the makings of an incident there. I think that is Holstenius making his way past Ramsey now on the catch-up. You can see an entire lap behind the leaders. He's unlapped himself for the most part, but still got some ways to go. There's going to be a drag race between the two, however. Here's the Ferraris. Patouche v Grossi. Is going to be Patouche on the inside, going onto the brakes, nice and sharp. Ooh, bit of contact made between them. Patouche is up into first. Tensions are going to be higher than ever. Grossi getting a bit of a counter-attack through the final sector into turns 16 to 18, 19 now. Grossi's reasserted himself into the pole position and into the lead of the race, but will that last? We've already seen that Patouche can break through the wall. How long until he gets it again? Wilson will be continuing their fight against De Vries, this time now on the back foot, as De Vries managed to use a bit of the GT3 traffic to get themselves ahead. Will Wilson be able to get back? Who knows? Wilson will be getting a little bit of a squeeze and an opportunity here. There's going to be knees bet on the inside with the Mustang. A little bit of shakiness on the tail. Try and keep that axle calm. Don't want to be pressuring it too hard here. So one thing we know about these cars is that they are tail happy. But here we go, down the straight. Here's Zepur is getting closer and closer. It goes to the right, then goes to the left. Is going to go for a bit of a dart down the inside. Takes the apex of turn 12. This is where it all comes to a head now. Ferrari side by side as they head through into the third sector. It's going to be Lettinen again, getting a bit of an advantage here. Diving down onto the brakes. Poor is trying to get as close as he possibly can to that other Ferrari. There's going to be Ramsey giving a bit of a flash there, as if to say, calm down guys, I still want some action too. I want a position of my own. So give me a bit of a chance here. Can't have all the fun to yourselves. But poor, going very narrow, starting to deviate from the racing line. In order to just try and attack and attack and attack Lettinen's position. Patush and Grossi continue to drag race each other as well at the front end of the hypercars, but I'm very much interested on how this battle for the podium, for all the podiums, has come to fruition. As Ramsey getting cut through by Wilson and De Vries shortly after. He's been pushed out all the way to a second of gap. Switch that tower. You get a bit of an insight onto the field. Best laps coming out from the field is a 53.086 from Patush right now, and then Lettinen with a 8.762, 208. Although, interestingly, that's only 27 milliseconds faster than Robert Poor, who we're still on board with right now. Only 27 milliseconds. So, the pace difference between these two is nigh on negligible. Going to be Richard Cook sweeping to the inside of these two here. Or is really getting antsy for it. Or contact made. Not the cleanest of moves, but Lettinen still refuses to let it go. He's not going to take that lying down for sure. Really is gunning for it, the number 86. Looks like we have a yellow flag briefly coming out as well, trying to identify the cause. No immediate cause being found, but there is going to be Borgso sweeping by our GT3 cars. There's going to be Ramsey as well, getting close, very close, in fact, to Robert there. Having to dart on the brakes to avoid a collision, turn 1. Smooth running is the name of the game, but looks like Ramsey has dropped a little bit of time here in that first sector. Not the cleanest he's looking. Worrying times. Or is at the end of his rope. We'll check in with him in a moment, as it looks like the fight may be reigniting in the leader hypercar. Into turn one once more. Here's going to be Patush once again within half a second. Looking to close that gap and get the position back. They had a brief taste of P1 just moments ago. It's going to be soon time for the field to experience a couple of things. For one, they are going to be experiencing some pit stops soon. Look at that energy reading. They're creeping dangerously close to the 10% mark for a lot of the hypercar field. So, within the next couple of laps, we will have them pit in. Just taking a moment to watch and learn from the Masters fight. See, just does a little bit of extra gaps he's trying to get. Patush really is going aggressive on some of those lines. These folks trying to fix a little bit of a background issue that just appeared. We are back on the air, hopefully, and back without major compromise, major issue. Anyway, getting us back to straight and narrow is going to be a trio of pits. Letton, Emperor, Ramsey all going in together. They race together. And now they are going to be jumping in together too. Lots of the hypercars have followed the trend, as we've seen, getting themselves into the pit lane as quick as they possibly can. Going as far as they can to the end, and then closing it out. GRDC, Bouquet, Patush all into the pits as well. Button's just coming out of the pit lane, as many of the GT3s are following out also. Again, GT3 traffic is going to prove to be a challenge to negotiate for some of the hypercars. You can see there's a very big wobble coming out for De Vries. He stayed out there and is going to be struggling to keep that car in check as we go. Biddle is up in P5 right now, and looks to be in pretty good shape. He's got a bit of a chance in the form of, say, Ramsey up ahead. Good stand to gain from the current track environment. But we are halfway through the race. You can see a little bit of a flash coming in from De Vries there as he's sweeping around some of the other hypercars. Time to get that challenge underway. Patush back out on the field, and Grossi is going to be under pressure still. Patush is going to be right there breathing down his neck as if nothing changed and if nothing happened. And going to go for the inside, sweep into turn 11. Switchback coming through, however, from Grossi. Will not be taking that line down. So penalty being awarded to Kerner. So not sure if that's quite gone to plan, but there goes the other Ferrari. Grossi very deep to the inside there. Darts to the narrow and makes it work. Patush going very wide. Left the door quite open. Rossi's reasserted himself into P3, also known as the net lead of the race, as Cook and De Vries are now into the pit lane. There you go, that's them right there. Kerner having given a penalty. That is going to affect their result, and it's going to be a bit of a negative wound. Going to be quite the wound on their current track spot. Patush and Grossi still challenging and chasing. These two refuse to yield even a second for each other, but something curious has happened. Poor is out in the lead. Now he's 35 seconds in the lead, so that suggests to me that he's yet to take his pit stop. The question is, where will he come out? Lettonen and Ramsey have both gone in, and the gap between Lettonen and Ramsey has grown by about a second and a half. So has Poor made the right call here? Let's find out. Will he be staying out much longer? Looks like he's going to be committing to a longer run here this side of the track. I'm going to take a quick look at Cook here, as De Vries is going to be on now the defensive. Wilson, I don't think Wilson is going to be in the same crosshair as he was before, because 16 seconds of a gap is a very difficult one to overcome. So really, Cook is going to be the aggressor now, as he gets within a few crucial tenths of a second, and is going to set himself as a challenger. Ferdinand Kerner and Holstenius are coming out of the pit lane now. And Kerner was... I'm not sure if that was a genuine pit or whether that was a penalty serve. Yeah, Cook could stand to gain a few positions here, although not with that line. Goes briefly into the gravel. Patush and Grossi going to have a bit of a wild card in the form of Kerner rejoining the track surface and actually briefly intersecting with the leaders. Patush sweeping around the outside of, I think that is Niesbet, and then there's Holstenius also there being lapped by Grossi. It goes very wide into turn 11. The draft coming from the Mustang, but then sweeping out to the inner portion of the track. Patush is still on the hunt for that position. He's about half a second shy. Not going to have much of any luck. just yet anyway. Holstenius and oh, Holstenius goes sideways here. Tuck into the infield as he has a bit of an incident and is now actually being chased by Kerner. Struggling with that car, it seems. Running slow and oh, contact with Bouquet. Contact has been made. I think blue flag rule is going to apply here, so naturally has to yield to hypercars who are running faster when it is safe to do so. Look at De Vries within half a second still. There is time. There is yet time. See, what is Cook doing to respond to De Vries' driving and to that actually rapidly growing gaps? 3/4 of a second, teetering on a second away now. That's looking mighty overcast. You can see in the sky the grey clouds forming, looming large. Rossi has actually had a bit of a mistake. As we can see, Patush is not only ahead, but has done so by 3 seconds. There will be quite a gap to overcome now, especially with GT3 traffic serving as hurdles. Depending on where they are on the track, this could hurt or help Grossi. All relative. Cook and De Vries now getting even closer now. 1/4 of a second. Cook has managed to pull that Porsche back into the wake of that Cadillac as we head through Sector 1. Sweeping away as quick as they can. That's going to be nicely, smoothly articulated through Turn 8 and Turn 9 now. Bit of a bump across the sausage curb for the Porsche. That's going to sacrifice some time here, but it's all about Turns 11 and how they can set themselves up into Turn 12. Good exit here. A little bit of a lock-up, a little bit too deep there. That hasn't played out in the Porsche's favour. It's going to be a tough one to pull back here. Making up time, but not close enough to officiate a move. This is going to be the problem. Cook has gained back the time they lost through that dodgy move in the corner. But it's not going to be close enough to get an attack in. Let's check in with the GT3s as things have been quiet on that front for a little while. Poor is into the box now, but is going to be in the box for a significant portion of time. You can see Lettonen, Ramsey, Nisbet, Biddleport all going fast. I wonder if Porter is going for a little bit more aggressive strategy on the pits. We'll have to wait and see. 24 minutes and counting to go. Biddle is going to be on the back of Nisbet. Almost a bit of a Groundhog Day scenario. As he's once again giving chase. Notice how much the cars roll as well. A bit of body roll in the current setup of at least Biddle's GT3. I wonder if he's set it up a little bit more softly sprung to account for the wet weather. Giving a bit more pliance at the cost of peak speed. The safer option for sure, but might have harmed him here as he's currently 20 minutes away from the end of the race and not a drop of water in sight, despite the weather reports saying that there will be a higher chance of rain than in qualifying. Maybe the clouds gave all they had to give. So the grip is only going to be on medium as a result of the slickened surface and the lower track temps. Without the direct sun. We are though. Here is Cook. Actually, Cook is going to be backing off from De Vries here. Was actually teeing up for a move, but curiously did not commit to it. Wonder if they're just opting to get safe laps in rather than challenge for position. Thinking away, that might be best As De Vries is 13.5 seconds away from Wilson, so there won't be much to gain beyond that point. Maybe save it for later. Save your attacks for later in the session. That's going to be around one of the BMWs. I believe that is going to be Stijink. I always think it's white, but then I remember it's just the front end. Wilson, however, is going to be pitting in. I believe that's for a second time now. So that is going to put them firmly behind Cook and De Vries. Potentially even further, as there will be Marvin Butson going into 6th place. Great recovery, considering their early start position. Considering they were right at the back of the field in P19. Behind all the GT3s, P6 is very respectable. Borgso is going to be jumping in as well in the Alpine. Meaning that we will yet see a couple more change-ups happening in the field. 40 on the back of Biddle as well will prove to make a potential three-way fight. Biddle's doing just as much work to catch up to Nisbet in the number 44. 20 minutes remain. Here is your full field rundown. First off, with the hypercars, it is going to be a quiet day for Patush. 3 seconds ahead of Alessandro Grossi, with Bouquet in 3rd, Henrik De Vries in 4th, Richard Cook in 5th, Butson in 6th, Alexander Borgso in 7th after a quick splash and dash, it looks like, with Wilson dropping down to 9th behind Holstenius and potentially Mark Ferdinand Kerner currently in 10th, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Depends on when Wilson is released from the pits. Meanwhile, on your GT3 end of the spectrum, Letonen is going to be your leader with Ramsey in 2nd, Nisbet in 3rd, Forte in 4th, Biddle in 5th, Stijink in 6th, Robert Poor previously in the top 3 fight, now in 7th with an off-cadence strategy. Might see them rein back in by the end, but who knows. And then Borgson to finish your order in 8th, with Barham retiring out in the early stages of the session. Wilson has been overtaken by Kerner, so he's going to be down into P10 and currently on the jack stands, or the air jacks embedded into the chassis. Get that car looked at, see what's going on. Wilson finally being released from the pit lane and will be emerging out in P10, 38 seconds behind Kerner, so he's got a lot of work to do. Ooh, Cook is having a rough one. Really did not get a good exit out of that turn 11. Very wobbly. Very wobbly indeed. So I'd almost hesitate to say it looks a little nervous behind the wheel of that thing. You know, the hypercars are no joke. I mean, the requirements to run a hypercar in this series, they are fairly lofty. You do have to have a certain rating to be permitted into hypercar, just because of the machinery that it is. It takes a certain driver to wield it. And if there's anything we want to pioneer here at GRDC, it's having those clean racing standards for everyone. The best racing that we can possibly get. So we've taken a bit of an audit of the field. Now let's check in with a couple of familiar faces we've seen throughout this broadcast. Cook still on the back of De Vries, albeit too far away for any moves as they're 3/4 of a second down. Butson just behind, dealing with a bit of traffic, but in 6th and looking strong. 1.2 seconds from Cook and stuck currently behind Ferdinand Kerner, who has netted themselves a position owing to Dan Wilson currently in the throes of P10, but may make that back on strategy later on. Button actually immediately closing in fast to the back of Cook. Oh, looks like a little bit of a wobble from the Porsche is going to net him a bit of an opportunity here. Sweeping past by, that's going to be Lettonen, and now goes into the apex of turn 11, basically muscling his way through. A little bit of contact on the exit there, not going to be the cleanest, but at the same time, he has got the move done. Cook does have a chance for recourse, but that's going to be Button on the defense in the number 50 Ferrari, as they're both drag racing their way down, squeezing a little bit more to the right, getting just slightly later on the brakes. Button saying, nope, that apex belongs to me. I am going to be challenging you for that. Thank you very much. But no, not quite done. Was trying to keep the sweep on the outside, but a poor line and a bit of a difficult angle of attack means that Button has got himself into P5 and has affirmatively taken that position. Now he's already going to be making up about a second, or half a second I should say, worth of gap, and now is going to be trying to cruise on down to take De Vries for the P4. You can see him just in the foreground there. Forte could be on the shot for a podium here, as Niesbet is going to be within striking distance. 4.5 tenths stand between him right now. Could easily change. Forte is actually going to get a really nice exit out turn 20. Not sure if that's dirt or water beading. No, that is just dirt. A little bit of surface grime and track schmutz, as I like to eloquently call it. A little bit of build up on that windscreen there as we head out into turn 2 now. The number 46 and a very recognizable font and color combination. If you know, you know. I definitely approve. That's all I will say. I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of the fact that reportedly custom liveries coming soon for this game will mean that we will hopefully get to see a very diverse roster of designs heading into future events and future seasons. As good as they are, we are at the mercy currently of what is available already in game. Like we see Bouquet right now sweeping around, say very nice sort of Toyota stock livery. I'm sure there's room for some artistic expression in there somewhere. The car is your canvas, and soon we'll get to paint. 14 minutes remain. Lettonen comfortably leads. Ramsey in second, Niesbet in third, and Patouche, Grossi and Bouquet are going to be your top 3 elsewhere. Wilson is on the makeup drive. As we can see there, he's really running aggressively. Trying to get around those GT3s as quickly as humanly possible. Let's check a bit on the Hyper's energy and see how they're doing there. So you can see Wilson, 33%. That is going to be roughly enough to get him to the end. I think everyone still has enough to get to the end. The only question mark I have is anyone who is currently in the 20s. So Button could be running it fairly close. Same with Patouche and Grossi. They could be running it fine. Could be running it a little bit close to call. Although, got to trust in the driver's judgment to an extent. Maybe a bit of energy management might be in order towards the end of the race, but I look particularly to Button, who has been driving like a machine. Currently trying to get within half a second of De Vries here as going to turn 12. And I have to be mindful of the energy reserves and how they could very quickly become a major problem towards finishing the race. 12 minutes is going to mean about 6 to 7 laps. 7 laps if we are counting from leader position. With that, is going to be a battle of longevity as much as it is for the rest of the race challenges. That being, of course, pace, positioning, racecraft. You know it. Feels surreal as well that we are getting... This is the penultimate round of the season. It does not quite feel real yet. We've had a really great inaugural season. We've seen a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Some battles to remember and some stories that the drivers would rather forget, as we have had a lot of different storylines play out throughout the season. We have had everything from potent dominance all the way to the other side of the aisle. Drivers are trying to make it work, but soldiering through regardless of the odds. Whether that's getting 2 to 3 wins on the trot, or whether you got yourself your first podium, you had a flash of brilliance. The thing that matters is that everyone has their own story to tell, and everyone has their races to be a part of. I think that's what makes sim racing as a whole so special. It gives everyone a chance to play out their own, in a way, fantasies, but also their own stories. You can get a chance to really hone the talent and play your own part in a bit of a journey almost. I'm not going to get too philosophical here, as we are playing witness at the same time to a very clean overtake from Mr. Butson in the number 50. But rest assured, I think everyone here on this track today, and maybe you watching at home, have a special place for sim racing in your hearts. Or at least it plays a bit of a factor in your lives somehow. Back up to the top of the field, this is going to be Grossi and Patush. Grossi has made up a lot of time. Did Patush make a mistake? Regardless, Grossi's going to have a second bite of the apple. And he's going to get himself back into the top honours spot. He's going to be in P1 and he's going to be leveraging. That is going to be Letonen right there. He's going to be leveraging that other Ferrari, that GT3, to full advantage. Watch how he used him effectively as a roadblock. Now, we were getting pretty insightful and philosophical earlier, but it's just as much as of a cutting-edge sport, or as much of a cutthroat activity, as much as it is a heartfelt one. I mean, that tactical play there from Grossi, using Letonen effectively as a moving roadblock to get Patush out of his way and get him a clear run. That's the kind of multi-class genius that we want to see. He's got himself not only the position, but he's given himself a pocket of a few tenths. That is going to be invaluable in these last 10 minutes, especially as we look and we can see that they are going to be running into the final 10% very soon, and this is going to be crunch time if they want to conserve their cars and bring it home. Great sweep and great attack from them both there. We'll switch it to multi-mode. We can see the leaders from each group, and we can see Letonen holding firm, 3.5 seconds away from Ramsey, so he's got a very much uninterrupted spot. Just going to have to make sure he stays out of trouble, because as we saw, Grossi 3 seconds behind, 3.5 seconds, that can be eclipsed very quickly. And Patush, previously looking like he had a hold for this session and for this race to take it, certainly not looking so comfortable. Maybe a little bit of a sweat breaking out here as he's going to be on the back foot here. We're going to be rolling that hypercar through. Let's take a bit of a check on some of the speed. As a second gear, just trying to balance the grip of the car. It's still quite cool out there. It is 28 degrees, but the lack of direct cover or direct sunlight is going to be affecting track surface temps. Those surface temps are going to be what generates you the big grip, and without that, hypercars are lacking in mechanical grip as they make their way through some of these slower corners. Either way, nicely done, and now on to the next lap here. Patush got about half of a second, 3.5 tenths to be exact. And now he's going to see if he can get that strike back onto Rebecca Grossi. 7 minutes to go. Session is not going to be getting any longer. I'll say, while we got a moment as well, wanted to thank all of the both familiar and fresh faces who are popping their heads in. Hope you're enjoying the show. We are on the penultimate round of the championship, but you want to jump in next week for the final round. Double points. It's going to be an absolute shocker. Championships will be made. Winners and champions will be crowned. It's going to be an absolute riot. See a few GT3s actually pitting in an unexpected turn of events. We're going to see Ramsey, Lettonen, Forte, Nisbet all jumping in. And this is the strategic sweep and switchback we were talking about previously. Robert Poor is going to now be the leader of LMGT3. He's going to be playing the long game, and he's absolutely masterfully swept the rug out from the rivals. What a interesting turn of events. Pretty sure he's going to be bored of my voice, however, by now, as we have had a few visits from the commentary box. Sure, he's going to be absolutely bored to death of my voice. You never know, we might see him again. Let's just see how these final 5 minutes play out. Many of the other cars have got several seconds between them. We've seen throughout the course of this race a lot of drivers form into their respective pockets. We can see, in fact, Grossi, Bouquet, and Patouche all heading in. Patouche going for a quick splash and dash. He's actually going to beat out Grossi from the pit lane. So that splash and dash of energy is going to be the equalizer here. Grossi once again on the back foot. Patouche just going to get the jump on the pit lane, but that will be a final fight to the finish. Just not quite having the energy to complete the section. Running a little bit too thin there. You can see Borgso, and I think Holstenius as well, kind of lapped traffic. I'm going to briefly merge into the fight, but it's not going to be a fight that holds. Patouche in the lead. Rossi is actually going to be given a bit of a roadblock. That is going to be Holstenius, but blue flag rules. Quickly gets out of the way. Another curiosity, Bouquet in P3 and is running quite close. He's been a bit of a silent surge throughout this whole ordeal. He's kept to himself and he's not really got in the way of many battles, but that's been his greatest asset. There you go, smile for the camera. And also to flash Holstenius out the way. But, you know, we're going to pretend that's for us. A second between Grossi and Patouche. 1.5 between Bouquet and Grossi. Potential fights all the way into the top end. But by far and away, the biggest surprise has been Poor. And the amount of time that he's gained back on the pit stop strategy. 10 seconds between himself and Alistair Ramsey in the Aston Martin. Ridiculous stuff. Real great strategy move. Playing that long game. And now it's just about bringing it home. It's like Grossi's actually going to be losing more and more time. He's dropped down about a quarter of a second here. And this is going to be the penultimate lap coming up. We're going to have 2 more laps after this point. Because remember, once it's the timer being elapsed, then that will be once the leader crosses the line to finish. Rossi has actually managed to peel back a bit of time here. Let's switch it to handy, neat little graphic here. It's a half a second splits the two. Great time being made up here. Grossi really is on a attack. I wonder, did... Oh no, Patush and Grossi both running pretty much the same energy levels. It will take a couple of percent, so it was just better timing. I was going to say, is Patush still having to do a tiny bit of lift and coast even after that? Just because they wanted to get the edge on position. Grossi, either way, is going to be within a couple of tenths of a second. He's going to squeeze as much time as he can out of that movement. Really gets close to the back bumper. I mean, can you call that a bumper? Pretty much all open car. Now, to call it a bumper is debatable. Regardless, Rossi is going to be getting very acquainted with it in this penultimate lap, and now final lap very soon approaching. I think Bouquet is out of the count here. He's going to be 2 seconds away, so unless there's a major incident, I think he's going to be resigning himself into P3. He's not going to be charging too hard as well. Notice he's not going to go too aggressive. Still going to be running quick, but is not going to be feeling a major pressure. Because look at De Vries's gap. 42.5 seconds between these two. Oh, I wouldn't stress it. If I was Bouquet, I wouldn't stress it right now, honestly. Go Grossi. Final lap here, getting right up close. As they try to switch each other. Get the switch back into turn 1. Doesn't quite pan out. And as we make our way through the first sector, it's going to be sweeping their way through turns 3, 5, 6 now. And going to be eagerly watching. Like a hawk, they're going to keep an eye on each other, going to keep each other honest throughout this entire final squabble. Well, that's going to be 3/4 of a second. Bit of a rough exit to the first sector there for Grossi. Can he make this up on turn 11 and 12? Looks like a slightly better exit, but they're running about equal. This is the main overtaking zone of the circuit. I don't know if Grossi's going to have the power. He's not going to have the beans in the tank. I don't know if he can bring this in. He's going to jump on the brakes pretty much as late as humanly possible. But it's still not going to be enough. It's going to be real close. You can see him sweeping left to right, trying to gain any time that he possibly can. But as we come through the final couple of corners now, it's a long, hard fight. In the end, one driver must take the crown. That crown for the hypercars anyway is going to be Mika Patush. As Grossi heads into the pit lane, it looks like they got drive-through. And as confirmed, reported, Patush is going to be the winner. Grossi heads into the pits, means that Bouquet is going to take an unexpected but welcomed P2 in this ordeal. I think Grossi is going to confirm a P3 here despite going through the pit lane. I think De Vries is just too far away, even if they were coming alongside. But De Vries is going to be coming through into P4, and then P5 will be Richard Cook. Looking at the GT3 report, is going to be making their way through that final sector now. And again, what a classy run this has been for them. Looking like a real exciting one. Might see if we can get a couple of interviews in, however we are. We'll squeeze in. They pour it up to the line. Nicely done. Well executed. What more could you ask for? There you go. Flashing and practically beaming. Well earned first place. Ramsey, another impressive fight into P2. And a very impressive showing from the Aston. Keeping the nose clean, keeping the cool as they go through. Nisbet is going to be in P3. And then just behind, very close to the wire, is going to be Jordan 40 into P4. Lettonen is ooh, Lettonen has seen better days, it seems. Looks like they're going to be peeling off to the side. And looks like they're going to be bowing out here, but that is going to be, for the most part, the race complete. So we'll take a few... We're going to take a few moments. Oh no, it looks like he has a DNF running out of fuel. That just occurred to me. That's just occurred to me. Running out of fuel there. Oh man, poor Lettonen. Poor Lettonen indeed. But field now back into the pits. The session concluded. And the field satisfied. So we're going to take up that full time pit and full time leaderboard. You can see Mika Patush is going to be your winner for the hypercars, followed by Bouquet and Grossi in third place, serving a drive-through, dropping a position, but not enough to be dropped from De Vries in P4. Cook is going to be in P5, and Marvin puts in with a solid run in P6. Holstenius is going to be in P7. And we are going to lose the feed before we can get the race results. But we will be quickly switching over to this screen as we'll get a bit of a readout. So, Holstenius, Borgso, Kerner, and Wilson complete your hypercar order, with Pur in the first place position for the LMGT3s, followed by Ramsey and Nisbet. 40, Lettonen is going to get a DNF, so you'll be down in P8, just ahead of Gary Barham. But it's going to be then Biddle, Stijink, Borgerson, Lettonen as mentioned, and then Gary Barham to finish. Crikey, what a session, what a finale in all of this. I can already see we've got Patush in the commentary box that we will hopefully get a chance to check out in just a moment. I'm just going to confirm that all of the audio is working. Usually I test this with Hiro, but he's, of course, not here tonight. And again, wish him a well recovery so he can join us for the last round. Paul also jumping in as well. So I think we are going to go into the commentary box. We are going to have a chance to talk to the winners from each respective division. I think we're going to be dragging in our hypercar runner first. So, wake up. Can you hear us, mate?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Perfect, perfect. How are you feeling? That was a very interesting race, start to finish, on your end, wasn't it?
Yes, very, very intense. I have to give credits to Grossi. Put on a very, very good racing. Yeah, just very happy to take home the win, which is also very important in the championship standings. And yeah, was a very, very good race.
Yeah, now that is, of course, the main highlight and the main thing I wanted to talk about, because you were, I want to say, for pretty much the entire race, just fighting in your own 1v1, yourself and Grossi. You did occasionally have a couple of visitors, but it was pretty much between you and him. So how was that playing out in your mind as the race went on? Did you sort of see that being a stalemate, or where was your head at throughout?
Yeah, of course I was trying to get past, but also I tried to not do something something stupid, like some dive bomb or something. But at one point I think I missed my braking point slightly, but he reacted very well and let me through. And at one point he missed his braking point and I let him through. So yeah, tried to play the tactical game a bit, and on the last stop I managed to jump him.
Yeah, that was the other part.
Very fortunate.
That was the other part I wanted to ask you about. Like, was that pit stop jump intentional, or was that just sort of a bit of a lucky break? Like, I saw you pretty much mimicked each other when it came to pit stop strategy. I think you both had pretty much the same idea when it came to sort of energy management, etc. But was that last stop to try and jump in the pits, was that premeditated, or was that sort of a lucky break?
Yeah, I'd say it was a bit lucky because I just calculated how much fuel I need for the last few laps and just put in the amount that I needed, and yeah, ended up putting in a bit less fuel than him because I think he had 22% or something, and I had like 16% or so. So yeah,
Yeah, I think
got lucky a bit.
you shaved those crucial milliseconds, those crucial tenths from the pit stop, and yeah, you sort of calculated that I think to perfection there. I'd say it was unfortunate because at the end, I think it was track limits. Grossi had to head into the pits to serve a DT, but that was a
Yeah.
raucous battle from start to finish. And I think with the entries for the points now being put in as we speak, this does put you quite close. In fact, I think this puts you right in the crosshairs of potentially overtaking Bellucci in the standings if round 10 goes well. How confident are you feeling about that final round?
Yeah, I can see. Sorry, I'm yeah, also going to practice a lot and yeah, see how it's gonna end up. Just trying to do the best I can, and if it's enough in the end, it's enough, and if not, then not. But I just try to concentrate on what I can influence and what I can do. So I just try to be the best version of myself.
Yep, can't say much more than that. So, well, you've been absolutely brilliant on track, mate, and I'm looking forward to Sebring.
Thank you very much, and
Thanks.
also thank you again for the stream. Thank you again to my team, Metal Motorsport. Also shout out to Marvin, who had to start from last. And
Pretty impressive on his own right.
yes, he did very well.
Gonna let you go, mate, anyway. Brilliant job. Thank you very much. And
Thank you so
might
much.
see you back here in the last round. Who knows? Take care.
Who knows? Maybe. Thank you. Good night. Bye bye.
There you go. So that was Mika. That was the winner of the Hypercar division. And now we are going to get Robert in as our representative and winner for the LMGT3. He's a familiar face by this point. He's got 3 wins on the trot. We'll see what he has to say. Let's bring him in. Robert, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello again, stranger. How are you?
Hello, I must say I'm very exhausted, but it's always good to talk to you. That usually means something good happened.
Well, you seem to be making a bit of a habit from that. Now, I'm looking at the standings here, and including tonight, you have got yourself 5 out of 9 wins. So that win rate is immensely impressive. Because you got most of the fighting and the wins shared between yourself and Lettonen, and you two were battling once again on track for a good chunk of that, but you did have Ramsey on the back as well. So I guess my sort of main question, how are you feeling throughout that race? Kind of talk us through your mind as that race went on.
Yes, it was so tough because first 2 weeks ago you asked me what I think about the remaining tracks, and I said I'm good at Kota, and I thought today, oh my god, I shouldn't have said that because now I have the pressure. That's the first thing. So adrenaline was already up, and then qualifying was quite strange because it was a one-shot thing. It was raining from the beginning and already damp track in lap 2, so just one shot, and it worked out fine. But at the start, I had some overlap with Timmy, so I couldn't defend the inside on the start, and it just could overtake me. And then I had a better pace today, but he's just defending so well. And for those 12 laps in the first stint, it was just it was like playing chess. And I tried things like dummy moves, went to the outside, back to the inside again, and he could defend everything. We touched 2 or 3 times very lightly, so I think it was fair and really, really cool to drive. And yeah, I thought I can't pass him. And as you said, 3 tenths behind me, I had the, I must say, beautiful Aston Martin, but in that case, it wasn't so beautiful for me because it was just I wasn't allowed to do a mistake, or else they would have gone through. So I decided to do the short stint in the middle, and then I just had to pray that it stays dry, because if it started to rain, I would have lost the podium. And I had to laugh loud when it started to rain with 30 seconds to go. There were drops on the windshield. I thought, okay, no, it's okay. It's one lap. That's fine. So yeah, it was a tricky and eventful race. But yeah, really enjoyed it, I must say.
Yeah, I'll say eventful. I think sort of sells it short. I mean, valid point. I think we'll replace beautiful with terrifying when it comes to the Aston Martin. Of course, he was squeezed on either end of the scale. But then you did something pretty interesting. You basically went completely off of the strategy of the other racers in the field. You went for a really early stop that put you sort of towards the back end of the field that ended up paying off big time. I'm going to ask a sort of similar question to what I asked Mika regarding pit stops. Was that premeditated? Was that planned? Or was that a result of you being stuck in that situation and having to go for a bit of a different tactic?
It was a result of it, actually. I knew it will be 28 laps for us. It's hard to calculate because it depends on when the hypercar P1 in hypercar finishes. But I knew it will be 28 laps. Or if I have clean air and I'm very consistent, it's 29 laps. But we fought for the first 12 laps, and that cost me maybe, or us both, or us three, maybe 1 second per lap. So I was really sure it will only be 28 laps, and once full stint is 12 laps. So I just fueled for 4 laps and didn't take tires on the first stop. So I was ahead then by 40 seconds. And then I did the second stop very early because I had to, and fueled the car to 100% and took fresh tires. And then I had clean air then, and I saw on the relative timings and the distance between Timmy and me get closer and closer. I could catch up, so I thought, okay, it was the right choice if it stays dry. If it had began to rain while I was already on my third stint and the other ones on the second stint, then I would have lost massively. But it's a bit tricky in LMU because the settings are 20% rain or 30% rain, and then it's basically lottery because it can rain, but it also can't rain. And it was the same as Imola. In Imola, I did a quite my setup was made for a wet race, and then there wasn't a single drop of rain in the race. So today I was prepared with a dry setup and just put it a little bit towards wet, just in case it gets wet and my pace isn't going to drop too much.
Yeah, I would say a good sort of compromise there, and certainly the different strategic choice you took paid off massively. Massive gap by the end. Certainly was a gamble that paid off in that case. But now we head into the final round. You're currently, at least according to the metrics that have been posted, you got 38 points ahead of Lettinen. It's still double points, but I'm going to sort of renew the question. Now, you said you felt very comfortable and you felt good at Kota. You did well on Kota. We still holding the same feelings about Sebring?
I actually don't, but maybe I should say so now because it worked one time.
You're manifesting your results, are you?
Yeah. No, I think Sebring is tricky, and it doesn't make really sense to try to finish in third or something, because with the hypercars around us, there's just one silly mistake by me or a hypercar, and everything is gone. So I'll just try to do my best, and every car that's behind me can't hold me up. And I can crash into it. So I'll try to just do my best and see how it goes. I will calculate where I have to finish, but I don't try to do that while I'm in the race. That's way too tricky. And yeah, it was a bit lucky for me because Timmy underfueled at the end by 1 lap. So he dropped back to 5th, I think. So yeah, the gap is now here, but yeah, I just try to have a good race and good fighting again. And I must say, those guys around me, they're all fighting very fair. So there are no situations where it ends your race. So I'm really enjoying it, I must say.
And as am I in the box, but yes, I done brilliantly, and looking forward to Sebring, mate. Gonna let you go. Enjoy your night, and thank you very much for joining us again. Again, making a bit of a habit of this one, aren't you?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good night to you, and I hope to speak to you next week again.
We shall see. But good night, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good night. Thanks.
Alrighty, folks, that is where we are going to wrap it for tonight. It's been brilliant to have the race here at Kota this evening. Now, as you heard, next time we are going to be at Sebring, and it is going to be a double points finale that could potentially swing the championship in favour. So you're going to see all your favourite faces there. You're going to see everyone bringing their absolute A game to round this championship off, because remember, there is trophies on the line as well as bragging rights. But we are going to wrap it up here for now. Next time you see us, we should hopefully have the full force and us all back in action. But my name has been Ben Sapsford, and I will see you next week, folks. Thank you for joining us as always, and a good night. Special thank you to all of our patrons and everyone who supports us as we go to the final screen to wrap things up. Be sure to give them a little bit of love, because without them, we can't do what we do here, plain and simple. But thanks again, folks. We'll see you next time. Good night.